Meg is now bigger than ever, establishing itself as not only a movie star, but now also in the eyes of many biologists and shark fanatics around the world as one of Earth's most apex predators ever. But what if I told you there was once a whale that not just rivaled the Meg, but hunted it? Around 10 million years ago, the Megalodon shared the oceans with Leviathan melvillei. And during the millions of years that the two species were alive together at the same time, there was no doubt many battles between these two Leviathans of the deep. You can see it in the name. Leviathan is derived from the word Leviathan. Leviathan being an ancient term used to describe a monstrous sea creature from biblical times. It would have been the perfect name for this apex predator whale, but due to the name already being used for an extinct relative species of the elephant, the name was instead changed to the Hebrew version of Leviathan, Leviathan. Leviathan, Leviathan, Leviathan. That's what I'm gonna call it. Fun fact here, the second part of the name, Melvillei, was named after the author of the famous story Moby Dick, Herman Melville. Speaking of Moby Dick, I have Leviathan here who's been designed to look like the famous white whale. Say hello, everyone. So before we get to talk about the interactions and battles between the Meg and the Leviathan, let's get everyone up to speed on how these animals stack up to one another. Leviathan's total length was estimated to range between 45 to 60 feet, 13 to 18 meters, roughly the size of a tractor-trailer truck, and weighed an estimated whopping 60 tons. Compared to the Meg, which was estimated to be around 60 feet in length and weigh 50 tons, the two were neck and neck in terms of sheer mass, both having such massive bodies that would allow them to be safe from most predators, except each other. But when it comes to their set of tools and skills for survival, that's when the differences really start to come out. With its powerful tail, this Leviathan of the deep could reach speeds of 20 miles per hour in the water. The impact force a creature of this size and that speed would inflict devastating damage. And if Leviathan ever needed a quick escape, its strong tail was capable of propelling the beast with extreme bursts of speed. The Megalodon is said to have been much slower, cruising comfortably at a speed of around 10 miles per hour with bursts of speed only being slightly faster, meaning the Leviathan would have quite the advantage when it came to speed and mobility. But what about one of the most important part of any sea creature's biology, their jaws and teeth? Here the Meg closes the distance on Leviathan, having jaws over 6 feet wide. Here's me and my nieces standing in front of some Meg jaws for some perspective for you guys. And some research states that there could have been Megs with jaws almost 10 feet wide. That's as tall as a basketball goal. And in these jaws, there were 250 razor-sharp teeth that were over 7 inches long and very robust. Terrifying on their own, but within the jaws of the Meg, crunching down with an estimated, get this, 40,000 pounds per square inch. The most powerful bite in the animal kingdom that we know of. These teeth could cut a whale in half. Now Leviathan's business end was no pushover either, coming in at around 6 feet long and 4 feet wide. I could literally lay flat on my back inside this animal's mouth, guys. Not as large as the Megs, but let me tell you about Leviathan's teeth. These things were of epic proportions, coming in at over 1 foot in length. Yep, twice as large as the Megs. God damn! And possibly the largest teeth ever on Earth, not counting tusks. These teeth were designed for ultimate devastation too. Fossil evidence on Leviathan's teeth suggests that the teeth would shear past each other like a pair of scissors, allowing the whale to ultimately cut massive hunks of flesh off of its prey's body with every bite, and hold it firmly in place no matter how hard it thrashed as it attempted to escape death. Now weirdly, I wasn't able to find any sort of estimate on how strong Leviathan's bite force actually was. Science is just weird like that, but I would assume it was in the ballpark of the Megs considering they're of equal size. Compared to the 250 teeth of the Meg, Livy only had 40 teeth. In the end, the jaws of these animals are polar opposites, but in the grand scheme of pure devastation, they both rival one another, I think. Once again, physically, the Megalodon and the Leviathan were practically neck and neck. But what about their individual adaptations for survival, their special skill set? This is where the differences really start to come out in the open. As far as we know, the Meg had all the adaptations that a modern shark has. Amazing sense of smell, eyes that could allow it to see in the darkest of ocean waters, and the ampullae of Lorenzini, which in simple terms allows sharks like the Meg to detect electrical currents in the water, something every living body puts off. You get the idea. Whereas Leviathan likely had echolocation to find prey due to having poor eyesight and a sense of smell. This echolocation combined with a great sense of hearing to detect things in the water for Leviathan. And of course, we cannot forget the spermaceti organ, which is theorized to help with echolocation, communication with other whales, used as a battering ram when it came to slamming into its prey, and could have helped the animal dive to super deep depths in the ocean.
You want to know why it's called spermaceti, right?
Well, the organ produces a white, milky-like substance that fills the cavity inside the giant rounded head.
Connect the dots.
Rarely has the natural world ever seen two apex predators that shared the same waters at the same time, like the case of the Megalodon and the Leviathan. But what about the big question here? Did Leviathan hunt down and kill the Megs?
As far as we know, abso-frickin-lutely.
But it's also likely the Meg would hunt Leviathans. But here's why Livy was likely considerably more successful at it. To figure this out, let's look at today's apex predator whale that shares many of the same similarities as the Leviathan. Orcas, the killer whales. These animals are the most deadly and efficient hunters in the ocean. In recent times, they've even been sighted hunting and killing giant whales and sharks of all kinds, even the great white. Researchers believe the Leviathan functioned in a way similar to the orca, and coming in at triple the size of a killer whale, that should scare the hell out of you. The Megalodon was no doubt a highly effective killer, using stealthy tactics to catch its prey off guard. One bite with this mouth would have been enough to cripple and bleed out any living creature ever that we know of. But the Leviathan had mammalian intelligence, and possibly a secret weapon on its side: teamwork.
Although there is little evidence to support this.
Leviathan, with its high endurance and speed, was the perfect pursuit hunter, just like the killer whales. So if the Leviathan did truly act like an orca, then it would have been able to learn new ways to hunt by trial and error, always using its big brain to analyze the situation and decide the best course of action. Sharks, while intelligent for fish, are more based on instincts than overall intelligence as we know it, or describe it, using the same techniques that the species had perfected tens of millions of years ago. A great asset when it comes to survival, but not so much for when a predator of equal size and strength came hunting for it. Over the millions of years the two species were in Earth's oceans at the same time, there is no denying that the Leviathan hunted, pursued, and killed many megalodons. And it's also likely that the occasional Meg would catch a Leviathan off guard using its stealth, delivering that killer blow right to the underbelly of the massive whale. But if the modern animal kingdom has anything to say, it's that the whale outplayed and outmatched the shark overall throughout time.
That we know of.
But according to the fossil record, why did the Meg outlive the Leviathan? The last Meg fossil that we found so far dates back to around 3.5 million years ago, while the last Livy specimen dates to around 8 million years ago. First off, it could just be that we've yet to find a Leviathan specimen that lasted longer than the individuals discovered so far.
Science can only do so much considering the crazy amount of things that have to go into creating a fossil that lasts millions of years, let alone millions of years in the ocean. So there may have been a chance that the Leviathan was still around towards the end of the Meg's reign.
And both species seem to have went extinct for similar reasons, the main being less diversity in their food selection. As the planets and oceans cooled, the smaller baleen whales that were around 30 feet in length that the Leviathan and Meg fed on started to grow much larger and, well, less abundant. And new species evolved, like the orcas and great whites, that would go on to compete for any of these smaller whales that were left. There simply just wasn't enough to sustain their massive bodies, and they slowly starved to death till there were none left. If it wasn't for these drastic changes in our oceans around that time, the Leviathan and Megalodon would still probably be alive today. And if they were, you can guarantee the Leviathan would still be hunting and killing the world's largest shark ever.
That we know of.
So everyone, down in the comments, tell me how you think an encounter between the Megalodon and the Leviathans would have played out. Rarely has there been such a close matchup of apex predators like this on our planet, to where they were both alive and living in the same areas at the same time, especially ones that are almost kaiju-sized.
Just imagine a battle between these two. It would have been horrifically outstanding. Massive shout out to Julian, by the way, for allowing us to use his way too good for YouTube animation during our video. Please go check out his videos, they will blow your mind. And if you have watched or plan on watching The Meg 2, make sure to go check out our video that we did talking about this movie, and chomp that subscribe button to stay up to date for more videos like this. Now remember that the next time that you go out into the oceans, just be thankful that these two Leviathans are no longer here with us.